From Infest to Ego Trip, from Last Resort to Cut the Line, Papa Roach has been one of the most influential and successful rock bands of the last 30 years. And today, we're going to find out why. Hello again, everyone. My name is James Shotwell, and this is the Music Biz channel. It's so good to be with you again, whether you're watching us on YouTube or Spotify or listening to the show on another podcast platform. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's episode is all about Papa Roach. Yes, the American rock band behind such hits as Last Resort and Broken Home are about to release their 11th studio album, Ego Trip, this April in 2022. Now that's a pretty impressive feat in and of itself. I mean, how many bands release 11 studio albums these days, let alone a band that has been together more or less since the late 90s. Now there are a few member changes in there, and of course the touring lineup changes from time to time, but the core members of Papa Roach have been together since the late 90s, and that doesn't show any signs of changing anytime soon. So today, I'm going to give you 5 lessons that every musician, regardless of their genre and what they do, can learn from the success of Papa Roach. Now when a lot of people talk about Papa Roach, they talk about the band's early work, which was decidedly in the nu metal genre. In fact, some would call them a founding father of the genre, but that hasn't always been the case. And that's the first thing that you need to know about Papa Roach. If you listened to them at one point in your life and you stopped and haven't tuned in since, let me tell you, the band that is working today is not the band that you remember. That's because the group has always put experimentation first. They've always thrown care to the wind as far as what the next thing is going to sound like that they make. Rather than chase the same sound again or try to double down on a successful formula, the group has repeatedly pushed themselves in new directions. And in any instance where that hasn't happened, you can tell based on the fans' reaction to the material. The albums that sound the same as the one that came before it tend to do worse than when the band just enters new territory. And to hear them talk, whether it is frontman Jacoby Shaddix or another member of the band, it is that interest in experimentation and pushing the envelope that has kept them together all this time. I remember early in the 2000s when the band dropped the rapping aspect of nu metal, there was an interview with Jacoby where he said, "I didn't feel like rapping anymore, so we stopped." And that's the kind of energy that you need in your career. If something doesn't feel right for you anymore, do something else. It's that simple, and who knows, it might work out, just like it did for Papa Roach. Moving right along, while experimentation can absolutely get you far in this industry, you need other components to make a successful career, and that begins with, perhaps most importantly, quality songwriting. Now again, I don't care at what point in your life you listened to Papa Roach, whether it was the Infest days or right now as we're heading into the release of Ego Trip, or somewhere in the middle. Maybe Scars is the song that you need. And if that's the case, well, then you already know what I'm talking about when it comes to Papa Roach, because Scars is a perfect example of what Papa Roach does so well. From the very beginning all the way through to today, Jacoby Shaddix has had a knack for very, very personal songwriting. I mean, so much so that there are tracks like Broken Home that almost make you feel uncomfortable while you're listening to them. And that's only if you don't relate to it, because if you relate to it, if you relate to the dark things that Jacoby has been through and that the band talks about in their music, well then it's probably comforting, it's relatable, it's something that makes you feel less alone in the world. It makes you feel like all the crazy nonsense that you've been through, all the traumas that you suffered, all the pain, all the loss. It's not just you. There are other people that have been through tough times. And Papa Roach has really built their career on this idea. I mean, think about it. Last Resort, a song about considering suicide. Broken Home, a song about coming from a bad place and not really knowing what to do from there. Scars, a song about all the terrible things that you've done in your life and the things that you will continue to do and all the reminders that stick with us throughout that time. There is a lot of loss. There's a lot of regret. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of guilt. But there's also a lot of hope. In all the songs I just mentioned, as well as the rest of the Papa Roach catalog, there's always these silver linings to the music, and that's a credit to the songwriting of Jacoby Shaddix and the rest of the band. They understand that life is tough, and that the best way to connect with listeners is to talk about the things that they also experience, and that includes love, loss, death, success, marriage, divorce, all of those things. But through it all, the human spirit is always looking for tomorrow. You know, there's one thing that's true about virtually all human beings, and that is that you can beat us down, you can take everything that we have, you can take the things that we love from us, and the sun will rise tomorrow, and we will get out of bed, and we will try to keep going. We will try to find a way forward. And Papa Roach writes music for that. For those people that are right there, who are waking up on the next morning, trying to figure out where to go next. And because they keep providing an anthem for those people and writing songs to those people, their career has flourished. And because Papa Roach has done such a good job of experimenting and writing songs that connect with people, they found themselves nearly 30 years into a career, 11 albums deep, with this growing catalog of hits and sort of hits and fan favorites that people want to hear, and you wouldn't be mad if you heard that Papa Roach didn't play some of the old stuff. I mean, after all, they've undergone several evolutions, so if they were like, we don't feel like the band that wrote that song anymore, it would make sense if they didn't play it, but that's not the kind of band Papa Roach is, and that's the third thing I want to tell you. Papa Roach is a band of the people. They understand that if you're coming out to their show, you might have checked into their career at any point in the last 30 years and then checked back out. So there are certain songs and certain eras of them that you are buying a ticket to see in person. If they don't deliver, they know that you will never come back to the show, and you probably won't tell other people to do the same. But if they can give you even a taste of the thing that you remember, the thing that you want them to give you while they're on stage.
Cut my life into pieces. Suffocation, no breathing. Don't give a fuck if I come on bleeding.
Well, then there's a good chance that you will at least speak highly of the performance. If not, come back again, bring a friend, buy a merch, etc., etc. So Papa Roach plays the hits, even this far into their career, with new singles coming out, new radio hits, new songs that could easily fill a set list. You'll go to a show and you will hear songs off Infest, off Love, Hate, Tragedy, off all of those early records that you know and love from your youth, or that your parents have shared with you if you're somebody who's a little younger watching this channel. Papa Roach understands that they are there in service of their audience, and as much as they might want to play certain songs, they always make room to play the hits that people want to hear, and you have to do that. You have to do a little bit of fan service, especially the longer you get in your career. When you're new and you're young, it's exciting to always play new stuff. People want to hear it. People want to see what you're doing, want to see the evolution, but there comes a certain point, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, where you've established yourself and you've established an audience, and that established audience is really what's supporting you. That is the nuts and bolts of your career. That is the base of your income that you're going to have. They're going to come out to the tours, they're going to buy the merch, they're going to support the album, they're going to be there for you. And the only way to maintain that group while also growing it is to always be giving them what they want. And that's the old stuff, that's the stuff that brought them to you in the first place, that's that engagement that got them there in the first place. So you have to always be kind of feeding that base level in order to build on top of it. And Papa Roach gets that, and I want you to as well. But let's be honest, as we get into the fourth thing, there's one other thing that Papa Roach understands about the business of music that I would argue most new artists, and even those that have found their first taste of success, haven't really gotten a feel for yet, and that is the ebb and flow of the music industry. Now, we can be honest here. This is a YouTube channel. Papa Roach and I have no relationship other than being a fan and then being a band that I listen to. Papa Roach has not always been the biggest rock band in the world. In fact, there's been long periods of time where they were struggling to have a rock radio hit, or maybe the album just didn't do as well as the one before it. And through it all, the band has endured. So when you're first getting into the industry, it takes a long time for anybody to care about you. When people start to care about you, that feels good, and your whole drive is to get more and more people to care about you. And Papa Roach have long done that. They've gotten millions upon millions of people to care about them. But at some point you hit some glass ceiling, some peak, some cresting point for that rise, and then it might just kind of plateau for a little bit. Who knows, it might even go down. But if you keep at it and you keep writing good songs and keep touring, it'll eventually come back up, and then it'll probably go down and back up and back down. And what happens is that artists allow themselves to fool themselves into thinking that up here is always going to continue, or that down here means that nobody cares anymore. And the trick, whether you're a music professional or an artist making music, is to understand that it's way more like this. It's just waves. There are going to be days when people love you and days when it seems like nobody cares. There are going to be songs that everybody loves and songs that you love but nobody cares about, and vice versa. Songs that you feel almost could have been cut from the album might end up being the most successful song off that album, and then you'll end up playing it for the next 3 decades of your life because it ended up being this monstrous hit that you'd never predicted. And that's just how it goes. See, the thing that Papa Roach figured out early on, and I think probably getting sober and doing a lot of the internal work that they did as a band and as individuals helped with this, but they understood that longevity is never a guaranteed stroll in the park. In fact, more often than not, if you want to be in entertainment for the long haul, you have to understand that there will be insanely high heights and devastatingly dark lows. And the best you can do is hope that more often than not, you're somewhere in the middle. Now, the final piece of the puzzle, the thing that separates Papa Roach from a ton of their peers, and one of the things that they've done so well that it influenced an entire new generation of people to do it as well, if not better than them, is fan engagement. And let me tell you what I mean. It's one thing to write very relatable songs. A lot of musicians write songs that we relate to, especially when it talks about broken hearts, bad relationships, and so forth. What separates artists like Papa Roach is that they make themselves available to the fans who relate to the material to not only hear their stories, but talk to them and comfort them beyond just writing and recording music. So if you're an artist like Papa Roach, for example, and you write a song like Broken Home, a very iconic song at this point that's all about growing up in a broken home and the chaos and the feelings that come along with that. Well, let me tell you, there are millions of people who come from broken homes. And when they hear a song like that, something inside of them goes, I'm no longer alone, and they want to tell somebody, specifically the people singing the song, about their experience. And this is something that I've talked about on High Notes and in interviews with countless artists. It's the weight, the unexpected weight of all the stories of your fans and the things that they've been through. You know, Papa Roach writes songs about traumatic events, which means that when they meet their fans and when fans write to them and tweet at them and share stories with them on any social media, there's a good likelihood that the fans are sharing heavy stories. I wanted to kill myself, I lost somebody I loved about, I have a substance abuse issue, my friends, my child, my whatever has a substance abuse issue. There are so many dark things that come into the world of Papa Roach. And rather than letting that break them, letting that weigh them down, letting that be a burden to them, they see the beauty in that. They see that they've created something so special that it makes complete strangers from all over the world want to confide in them and want to share something with them so that they can feel closeness, so that everyone can be less alone. And that is what we talk about when we talk about doing a better job of engaging your fans. It's not about asking everybody what their favorite food is on Twitter or about making a cool video that gets a lot of likes on TikTok. It's about doing something or making something or sharing something that is so undeniably unique and so wonderfully personal that when somebody else hears it, it almost feels inviting to them to do the same for you, to open up and share something of themselves. And when we do that on a very large scale, that's when we start to see positive change on a very large level. You know, Papa Roach writes songs about going through dark times and finding the hope to keep going. And the more that that message spreads and the more people that hear that message and relate to it, the more people who go through hard times and don't think, wow, it's going to be like this forever, and instead maybe think, if I can get through today, tomorrow will be a little bit brighter. And the fact that Papa Roach has managed to keep that engagement and that connection with their fans going as they've ballooned from a tiny band in 1993 to one of the biggest bands in the world in 2022 speaks to their understanding of the industry and what it takes to build a lasting career. And that's what I want for you. Now, this is not a sponsored post by any means, but I do feel compelled to tell you that Papa Roach will release their 11th studio album, Ego Trip, this April, and I want you to hear it. It's a great record. The band does not disappoint. They're on tour right now. Heck, they're on tour all the time, so go out and check them out. If they see this, I hope they like it, but if not, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you'd like even more Music Biz content, click the subscribe button. And if you're listening on Spotify or somewhere else, please stick around. We've got a lot more content coming soon, and we want you to be a part of it. Music Biz exists to help you understand the modern industry, what's happening in it, where we go from here, the highs, the lows, and everything else. So please stick with me. I'll get you through it all. My name's James Shotwell. I'm here every week. I'll be back soon, and until then, take care of yourself because you deserve it.